It turns out Nvidia actually does care about gamers as long as AI is involved in the equation. They just launched DLSS 4.5 and well, with some hands-on impression from Linus Tech Tips, it's looking like a pretty big upgrade.
Linus, can you tell it all when it's turning on or off?
It's exactly what I'm trying to figure out right now. Okay, here, let's teamwork this. I suspect that right now it is not.
It is on.
It's on. Damn. Okay, it's definitely off now.
Yes.
Okay. Did it just transition? I think it just transitioned. I think it's off.
It never turned on.
Really?
Yeah, as far as this thing's reporting.
Okay.
If someone like him, that fluid in tech, cannot tell the difference between a frame generation image and a non-frame generation image, it must be damn good. And going forward, I think Nvidia is going to be leaning into it harder than ever before. Today, we're going to be talking about DLSS 4.5, things missing from Nvidia's keynote, like maybe a new graphics card, where are the supers at, and then also future DLSS features I think Nvidia has waiting in their back pocket for something such as DLSS 5. So let's get into it. So recently I really wanted to get into coding, learn more about game design, learn how games are made through code, and then Brilliant stepped in as the sponsor of this video. So I started their Thinking and Code course, and it's refreshing because Brilliant knows you can do math, it knows you're a thinker, and with that, you actually achieve more than you thought was even possible. They have these active learning modules that incorporate visuals and step-by-step guidelines that honestly make learning fun. What I really liked is it allowed me to actually jump between courses and sections within my course so I could learn at my own pace. What I was doing, I understood, and I didn't need to practice anymore. I could just go ahead and jump to the next module. And that's a great thing. It really seems like Brilliant respects your time and the rate at which every person learns. So go ahead and claim your 30-day free trial and 20% off their premium annual subscription by going to brilliant.org/siliconsteak, or just scan the QR code here on screen, or you could check my pinned comment with the link. Once again, thanks to Brilliant for sponsoring the video. Now let's get back to it. So much to unpack here with DLSS 4.5. We have more generated frames per second, we have better image quality, and overall it's just a pretty big upgrade to the DLSS we know and love, or maybe hate. So right off the bat, DLSS 4.5, according to Nvidia, was trained with 5 times the AI compute of DLSS 4. If you don't know, DLSS is actually manufactured the models by Nvidia using their AI data centers. And all they're saying with this is, DLSS 4.5 to run on your local computer. No, it doesn't use 5 times more compute. Their training of their modules of their AI data centers use 5 times more compute to make it. So get this, what's screwing over gamers in one way is benefiting gamers in the other. But AI data centers do help out gamers every now and then.
I'm so proud of it.
Frame gen, we have 6x frame gen, bumping it up from 4x frame gen on Blackwell right now. 6x frame gen is insane. For every 1 frame you natively render, which honestly you aren't even natively rendering that frame if you're using, base DLSS upscaling, you have 5 more frames after that 1 frame you render that are generated through frame gen. I believe with RTX 4000, every 1 pixel that was rendered, there was 15 other pixels that were generated by AI, when it comes to DLSS ultra performance or performance, and then frame gen 2x. When it comes to this, if you turned on Blackwell with DLSS performance and then frame gen 6x, I don't even want to know what's the relative native pixel to AI pixel. I'll put that on screen here. I'll do the math. But this is a little insane. At this point, our game is vast majority more AI than real. But as long as you can't tell the difference, which based on what we've seen so far, it looks like you won't, this is a great thing. The really cool thing about FrameGen, and I'm just starting off FrameGen because I think it's the biggest deal here for a lot of people, is the dynamic FrameGen is it's a little nutty, okay? This is exactly what FrameGen needed as a launch feature, in my opinion. I think, especially multi-frame gen. Dynamic frame gen, what it does is it basically just targets your monitor's max refresh rate, and it dynamically increases frame gen to reach that. You may have heard of dynamic resolution. Similar idea here, okay? That's what dynamic frame gen is doing. So let's say you have a 120 hertz monitor and you're at 60 FPS in your current scene. Your game will turn on frame gen 2x to reach 120 FPS. Now, if you're at 120 FPS already without frame gen, it will keep that off. And I think this is a great feature This is exactly what we wanted, I think, as gamers. Even if you don't like frame gen, I think with this feature, you might want to give it a try every now and then. You know, the next big thing that they announced is the 2nd gen transformer model. And this seems to be, you know, not even an incremental change, but a huge change to the quality of DLSS, almost on par from going from the convolutional model to the transformer model we have now. So there's a big jump here. They're using FP8 still on the transformer model, which I found kind of interesting. If you don't know, Blackwell has support in the tensor cores for FP4. So Nvidia could actually do more here. However, that would definitely nerf Lovelace, you know, RTX 4000 and earlier. So the funny thing with this 2nd gen transformer model is, yes, the pixels look better, the image quality looks better, but if you're on RTX 3000 or earlier, you know, RTX 3000 or RTX 2000, you're actually gonna get like a 30% performance hit by turning this 2nd gen transformer model on, because it uses FP8. Like I said, those two cards on the tensor cores only have FP16 on their tensor cores. Meanwhile, RTX 4000 has FP8, and then RTX 5000 has FP4. Whether you want to turn that on RTX 3, you know, if you have like a 3090, is that really up to you? I think that the image quality is going to be worth it. Maybe instead of using balance, you can use performance and it will look better than balance did before. You're just going to have to do testing yourself and look for that. But personally, I think this is interesting. And this is one of those features I think going forward, DLSS is going to switch to FP4 and it's not going to be long from now, guys. So if you have a choice between RTX 4000 and RTX 5000 for the same price, go with 5000. Now, a few more things I wanted to talk about is people are really starting to wake up, okay? People are starting to either get on one side and just really push in their hate and dismay for frame generation, okay? And on the other side, there's these people that love frame generation. With every new patch and things like this, they're promoting it. So the people on the fence are really starting to jump from one side or to the other. And I think, you know, Linus was one of those people, like in the video, like he says, I don't use it. After seeing what he's seen there, a lot of these tech tubers might start testing games with frame generation. In that case, Nvidia is going to be top on the charts on all these tests. Now, do I think it's like ethical and like valuable to do that? I think without a native comparison, it's pretty disingenuous to only include frame gen data, but I think frame generation data should be included in tests alongside native data. And even when I tested the 5070, when I tested my 5090, I included both native and frame generation data. And I think it's very, very important for those wanting to max out their monitor's refresh rate. So let me know in the comments, are you interested in frame gen or do you think it's just garbage? Another thing I wanted to talk about is like, where the heck is RTX Super? Okay. We want more VRAM. Nvidia, give us more VRAM. To me, this is obviously, this DLSS 4.5, it was obviously supposed to launch with RTX 5000 Super. Like, you come out with a new update when you come out with your new hardware. It makes sense. They've done this before. They did this with Blackwell. They did it with RTX 4000. And they probably had a DLSS update with RTX 40 Super as well. I can't remember, but I'm sure they did. And that's what really seems to be missing here is a new GPU launch. And we all know about the AI boom. We all know about the DRAM shortages and things like that. And obviously, that's why these super cards aren't here. Honestly, I think Nvidia is going to scrap those super cards. If not, if they're going to launch them, they're going to push next generation RTX 6000 Rubin. They're going to push that back a year, maybe in a year and a half, and just rake in those data center profits on the TSMC 3nm node. They definitely don't want to make chips, gaming chips on TSMC 3nm when they could sell them to AI data center. They don't want that taking their capacity. So I could definitely see them just prolonging RTX 5000. And this would be the ultimate doomsday. Like, this would be the worst scenario, but Nvidia could cancel Super and then in the fall of this year, 2026, come out, or maybe even wait till 2027, come out with RTX 6000. And it's basically what RTX 50 Super was supposed to be. Like, it's all the same dies, same VRAM, but they just rename it to RTX 6000. And that is what really would, I think, piss off gamers the most. But it could be something they do. We'll just have to wait and see. And you may be wondering, like, how would they get away with that? Like, most of these super cards are only going to be having like 5% more performance based on the core count. And here's the thing, it's no longer about the core count to Nvidia. To us, it does matter because it does give you more performance. To Nvidia, that's no longer a factor. The factor for selling Nvidia's cards is AI, and that's what they want it to be. They're gonna push out a DLSS 5. This is just all my thoughts, but Nvidia could push out a DLSS 5.0 with these next generation RTX super cards that incorporates VRAM compression and neural rendering. These are two things that current Blackwell should be able to support with its FP4 Tensor cores. And I think that they were planning on launching these features with Rubin in this year. Originally, I think they were going to launch Rubin in 2026. They're going to launch VRAM compression, fully realized, and neural rendering. These are two things NVIDIA's already announced. They will be coming to DLSS at some point. They're definitely working on them. And I think they could have released these early. Like, they could have definitely had VRAM compression ready with DLSS 4.5, but I think they're, number one, making sure it works right, letting it mature, but they're sitting that in their back pocket, and they're actually waiting to launch that with some new hardware. They want it to be a system seller. They want DLSS to be a system seller. Honestly, I think ever since RTX 3000, it has been a bit of a system seller for them. So yes, VRAM compression, the ability to basically negate VRAM capacity for games, I think NVIDIA will be saving in their back pocket as an extension to DLSS for next generation. And also neural rendering, I think they will be also saving. We have no idea what neural rendering will look like yet. Basically, a lot of people are speculating it's just going to be like AI slop. We've seen some examples of neural rendering in games. I think the application is really cool, but overall it's probably going to be abused, and we're going to get a lot of AI slop games, but we'll have to wait and see. Yeah, it's just getting to the point where DLSS is seriously good. Like, it's so good that you can get free FPS with just a software update. I mean, it's getting to that point, guys. You're getting significantly better frame rates or image quality or frame times or just overall consistency with a software update to your hardware. Like, the hardware is powerful, but the software matters more. And it's just getting to that point where DLSS is so good that future hardware is going to be built around DLSS, okay? Future hardware is going to be built around DLSS. With these FP4 instructions, things like VRAM compression and neural rendering, I think that's going to be NVIDIA's main focus going forward, adding extensions to DLSS. The die sizes, the CUDA core amounts, whether they change or not is really not up to NVIDIA's concern. They just want to do what can make them the most money when it comes to the physical hardware. NVIDIA already has all the resources to make AI algorithms better than anyone else, basically. And that's exactly what they're doing with DLSS, and they're going to push that onto future cards. I'd expect every release with NVIDIA, every hardware release, to have a new iteration of DLSS. And eventually, all these iterations are going to result in a product that you won't be able to live without. So let's just hope that AMD and Intel can actually compete. But honestly, at the way NVIDIA is moving forward with DLSS, I don't know. It's going to be difficult. Now, I think there is diminishing returns when it comes to image quality. So I think AMD and Intel definitely have a shot to catch up in a marginal sense, but I don't know if they'll ever be able to match NVIDIA when it comes to image quality and overall ease of use. So just keep this in mind. Future hardware is not going to be built with core count, VRAM, bus width, all the traditional things that we thought makes a GPU good. NVIDIA is not going to be building GPUs with those things in mind anymore. Sure, they're going to use them for segmentation and things like that, but NVIDIA is going to be building future GPUs with their software AI DLSS performance in mind. How can they increase DLSS performance on that card? Will it support the extensions? Will it support the FP2, FP1, maybe one day that these cards need to run the AI models? Things like that. That's what NVIDIA is going to be doing going forward. So honestly, I'd say if you can find a RTX 50 series card at MSRP, something like an RTX 5070, maybe 5070 Ti, or if you want to get a 5090, go ahead and get that, because this next generation neural compression and neural rendering algorithms for DLSS, I think, are going to be built on FP4. It's just a hunch. I have an idea it's going to be built on FP4 because, especially if they delay supers and re-release them later as RTX 6000, they'd still have that FP4 extension. And what that would mean is RTX 4000 is segregated from the next generation of DLSS features like VRAM compression and neural rendering, because it needs FP4, and maybe even a next generation model of DLSS upscaling only has to be run on FP4. Now, obviously you can still do these models without native support. It's just gonna hurt your performance like 30% like it did on the RTX 20 and 30 series. So yeah, what do I think about DLSS? I think DLSS is great. As long as Nvidia doesn't nerf the cards because DLSS can boost their performance, I'm fine with it. Like, I'm not cool with buying a 128-bit card for like $400, $500 like the 5060 Ti, but I am cool with, you know, my $1,000 256-bit or maybe $2,000 512-bit graphics card like the 5090, getting all those features and, you know, having that baseline performance to do what I need to do, and those features aren't supported, but then it's just like icing on top with the features. I like it. You know, in my testing, when I did the 5090 and the 5070 overview after a couple months, I enjoyed frame gen. I felt like it was a very good feature to enable when you're doing heavy GPU work like path tracing. If you don't want to enable ray tracing or path tracing, I didn't really find frame generation to be all that useful most of the time, because your average frame rate was already in the hundreds, and yeah, it just didn't seem as useful. But you know, as games become more and more heavy, you know, as the Unreal Engine slop continues, we're gonna have to use more frame gen. And if we're gonna have to use frame gen anyways, it might as well be good. So I'm happy Nvidia's innovating when it comes to these technologies. And let's be real, everyone's just following what Nvidia does with these technologies. No one's really creating new things but Nvidia. We'll just have to stay tuned to see what really happens with all this DRAM shortage. Is RTX 50 Super canceled, or is it gonna be delayed and renamed as RTX 60? I don't know. What kind of shenanigans is Nvidia gonna pull? Let me know down in the comments below. Silicon Steak, signing out.
Ever review every spec, he's on deck. From GPUs to CPUs, he knows it all. No question too big, no detail too small. He's got the knowledge, he's got the skill. When he drops his take, the haters stand